Namaste and good afternoon to everybody. I am Ankit Guptani and it is my pleasure to welcome everyone to the Vidya webinar. The year 2020 marks the 35 years of Vidya service towards education and empowerment of less privileged children, youth and women. We have 78 projects spread across the country's 5 metro and have impacted over 4 lakh lives in our journey. This was possible with our motto of educate, empower, and transform. This wonderful work was started by our founder and honorable president, Rashmi Mishra ji, whose 70th birthday we just celebrated last week. Indeed, Rashmi ji is a source of inspiration for all of us for so many years now. Today, our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Rajendra Barve, psychiatrist and mindful teacher, will be delivering a webinar, as you all know, on the topic Bounce Back to New Normal. Dr. Sheetal Kale, Chief Medical Officer and TEDx speaker from distinguished IIT Bombay Hospital, will be the moderator for the session. Dr. Kale believes that it is important for doctors to remain updated on the learning of medicine and have a holistic approach for treating patients. Now, of course, it's time for some housekeeping announcement. I request all the participants to share their questions in the Q&A box and do not use the chat box in between the session. With this note, requesting Dr. Kale to take the session ahead.
Thank you, Ankit. Yeah, good evening, everyone, and namaskar. So, welcome to today's engrossing webinar by Dr. Rajendra Barve, who is an eminent visiting consultant psychiatrist, and also is popularly known as a mindfulness teacher. Now, Dr. Barve, he is running his own clinic called Parivartan, the Turning Point in Mumbai for the last 35 years. His association with IIT Bombay also dates back to more than 24 years, where he works as a visiting psychiatrist and as a teacher to many IIT Bombay students and the management students. Dr. Dr. Rajendra Barve is trained at Association of Overseas Trainers School, Tokyo, Japan. He is known as Sugata Acharya from Pagoda Meditation Center in Colombo, Sri Lanka, under the auspices of Bhante Olande Ananda. Now, Dr. Barve has this tremendous ability to connect to all sectors of society, and you will definitely agree with me at the end of this session. Today, Dr. Barve would guide us to develop skills of resilience. Resilience, as you all know, is the ability to fight the odds you face in life and come back to normal life. Now, it is not inherited. You have to develop this skill, and how you are going to you how you have to develop that skill. Dr. Barve is going to guide us. Now, I welcome Dr. Rajendra Barve to start this webinar. Thank you.
Namaste. I'm very glad that Vidya has invited me again to speak to their own people. And I think it's going all over the country as well as many other places in the world. So it's very heartening to work with all of you because it gives me sense of belongingness because it has been part of IIT. Now we are going to talk about, and your name itself, it's a very interesting name. And when I was working on this, resilience and bouncing back, I realized that it's very important that I must quote this shlok from Upanishad, which has this word Vidya. And it is directly connected to what we are going to do today. Of course, the word which was used then for coming back to normality or doing better than your best was Viryavattaram. So the shlok goes like this. Yadeva karoti vidyaya, yadeva karoti shraddhaya, yadeva karoti upanishada, tadeva bhavati viryavattaram. Now, Viryavattaram means he's the bravest among the brave. So, only the bravest among the brave is going to survive and is resilient and is going to come up in life. Now, for this kind of excellence and resilience, they've described three main things. One is Vidya, the second is Shraddha, and third is Upanishada. These three things are very, very important because Vidya means not only knowledge, but Vidya also means skills. So very important that we must have best of the best skills in the world so that we become the best people, or we can survive and we have that resilience. Second thing, Yadeva Karoti Shraddhaya. Shraddha is not the faith or the belief in God or anything. Shraddha means self-belief, self-esteem. We believe in ourselves. We know what we are up to and we know what our purpose is. And then that is the conviction that we have. And when your conviction is so excellent that you start doing the best in the world. And lastly, Yadeva Karoti Upanishada, which means that you, Upanishad means to sit down. You sit down, remain calm, connect to yourself with the help of your teacher or your guru. Am I audible? With your teacher or your guru, and find the purpose in life, meaning in life, and then only you'll be able to do your best. So with this great idea from Upanishad, the word Vidya is there. So I thought it's best that pay tribute to Vidya and also pay tribute to our sages who for millions or hundreds of years back talked about excellence, talked about resilience. Now we have to talk about resilience in the current times of the COVID-19, because this has come as a most unprecedented kind of pandemic the world over, of course, and particularly India. And then to begin with, we thought it is not part of us. Then it started coming, then the cases started appearing and they increased. And now it's here, it's there in our own country, in our own state, in our own city, in our own lane, in our own building. So it has become something which is, reached our door, and we need to brace ourselves to go beyond the pandemic, to go beyond the situation that we are facing now. This is a very, very critical situation. And to that critical situation, people are responding very well. So why I want to talk about resilience now? Because there are reasons to talk about resilience at this stage. The social psychologists world over have studied pattern of how the community, how the society responds or reacts to pandemics of this kind. They have described there are 4 phases in which people respond or the community responds. First phase is called the phase of heroism. Of course, you remember that when the news came and when people started talking about the pandemic, there was huge commotion and excitement, and that we are doing that the doctors and the paramedical staff and the frontline corona warriors are working so hard. We clap for them, put diya for them, and now so there was an act of heroism. Doctors work without even PPEs. So it was a great thing that was happening in the community, and people were braced up and willing to face the situation. Second is, we got into the phase where we said, okay, now this pandemic is here. Now we have to learn to be with it. So it's called, very funnily, it's called phase of honeymoon. That means we are staying together. We are together. Now there is no doubt about it, and there is no fake, we don't have to be heroic about it. We just have to be very calm, collected, cool, and embrace the reality. So that embracing of the reality and accepting the reality is part of that honeymoon. And in this phase, many things happen. That means the society gears up, the government gears up, people gear up, and they know all that needs to be done. And they start practicing it, and then they start seeing that their practice is making some difference to the pandemic. As the days go on, there is a phase of disillusionment. That means we have tried very hard. We fought with great valor. We embraced the situation, but it doesn't seem to be leading anything which is containing the pandemic. So this is a state of disillusionment. And the social psychologists say that this is a very, very important phase in which we are now. Why it is important? Because there is tremendous amount of stress. There is tremendous amount of disillusionment. It's kind of feeling that we have lost the battle. It's a feeling that we really can't fight this coronavirus, and it just spreads. So there is a sense of disillusionment, depression, loss of hope, feeling helpless, feeling there is no worth of life. So this is a very, very difficult phase of disillusionment. But they have always said that after people who survive and people who work through the disillusionment, the fourth phase is called phase of innovation, phase of creativity, phase where everyone makes efforts to see to it that we are not only overcome the pandemic, but we are bouncing back to normal, and we are bouncing back in a much better way. The word new normal became very important because in 2008, you know that there was a economic crisis the world over, and the economists came back and said, look, it's not once the crisis is over, we'll just go back to normality. No, that's not going to happen. It's not like what it was before the crisis. No, it's different. So they said that we have to brace ourselves. We have to be very sharp now, and we have to be very, very clear. We have to be very aware of what the new world is going to be. And now the new world is shattered in more than one way. The financial situation is challenging. The transport system, the logistics are challenging. People are scattered. We really don't know how people have lost their jobs. So many things have happened. And in this phase, if we have to fight, we have to work hard and come back to normality. And that is the new normal that we have to find. And that new normal is very important, because it will tell you that we are not only coming back to normal, we are not just being average, but we are better than what we were earlier. It's like when you put gold in fire, it comes out shining. So we are going through this phase, and this disillusionment phase is very, very critical. And if we prepare ourselves now for innovation, for new normality, then only we'll be able to not only survive, but we'll start flourishing in our own community, our country, our state, our city. Everything will start flourishing, because this crisis may turn out to be an opportunity for many, many things. So when we say resilience, this is what I mean. Resilience as a word is borrowed not from human sciences. This has been borrowed from material science, where they say the metal is resilient. That means it is flexible. That means it will come back. If you bend it, it will come back to normal. So the word resilience actually means coming back to normal. It must have that elasticity, that it will bend, but it will not break. So it's just like if you have a rubber ball which you push underwater, and it remains down so long as your hand is pushing it down. But when you take off your hand, the rubber ball has bounce within it. We have heard this word bounce in cricket, that now there is bounce in the crease, and the ball is now bouncing back to the batsman, and it turning. So word bounce back is something which has been used many, many times in many, many different ways. And we have heard this word, but we never thought that there will be time when we'll be actually facing the bounce back world. Now, what does bounce back? What does resilience ultimately mean? What does it consist of? What are the factors which are there in resilience? What are the factors which allow you to come back, to bounce back? The factors are 5. First factor is self-awareness. Second factor is your flexibility and stability of the focus, or your ability to pay attention. Third is letting go, physically as well as mentally. And lastly, assessing and sustaining positive emotion. So I'll just repeat: self-awareness, attention, letting go, and accessing and sustaining positive emotion. So these are the factors which are there in resilience. So we'll understand each factor, and then we'll move forward. So first thing that we need to do is self-awareness. It's like knowing where you are exactly. If I want to go ahead in life, my first question is, where am I now? The very famous story of a mullah, Nasruddin. He was working in the field in his farm, and a person came running, and a person came and said, can you tell me where is Makkah? So Mullaji didn't answer. Then he asked again, where is Makkah? He said, no answer. Third time he said, where is Makkah? He didn't answer. Then this person started running. Then Mullaji stood up and said, 20 minutes. So he came back and said, sir, I asked you 3 times, how long is Makkah from here? And now when I'm going, you have told me it's 20 minutes. What does it mean? And Mullaji said, very important, that he said that I can't answer this question unless I know how fast you can run. So the first thing that we must do is become aware of ourselves. Where am I now? Any destination is possible only when you know where you are now. How far is it from here? You know only when you are now. And when we talk about self-awareness, in bounce back, in human science, in humanities, in psychology, it means self-awareness it's a prerequisite. It's a choice, and control is possible only when you know what choices you have and the situation can be brought under control. And what are you aware of? You are aware of your own thoughts. You are aware of your own emotions. You are wondering whether you have any negative emotions inside you. You are aware whether there are negative thoughts in your own mind. So becoming aware is very, very important. And that's a foundation of emotional and a foundation of resilience and emotional intelligence. Awareness of your body is also very important, because we must know how your body responds, how your processes in the body work, and very important, because in this phase, in bounce back, the state of the body, state of the mind is very different. Some of us are depressed, some of us are very anxious, and frankly, some of us are burnout stress syndrome. Now, what is that burnout stress syndrome? Which is very important to know in the resilience phase. Why? Essentially because we have been responding to stress, and the stress has become very chronic. And when it becomes chronic, our body gets exhausted. It can no more fight. The steroids are high, the adrenaline is high, but the glands are tired now, which secrete corticosteroids and adrenaline. So what happens is that we have this sense of fatigue, that I can't go anymore. So this is the state of the body, and we have to work with this kind of body. And how to energize this body is very important. But first, know that you are in a fatigue state, you are in an anxious state, you are in a depressed state. Third self-awareness is about how your thinking process, what ability you have in solving problems, what is the pattern in which you think. Now, thinking is in simply said, is problem solving ability of a person. So because I have different kinds of problems we face, we have different ways of thinking. Thinking could be based on our own irrational beliefs, only based on your own past experiences, or thinking could be based on reality, could be based on rational thinking. The thinking could be based on taking into account what exactly needs to be done, how the problem can be defined, how the problem can be solved. We need to have all those thinking patterns, and we must know what thinking pattern I have. And fourthly, we must know the mind and body connection, how the mind actually directs the body. It's not the body which takes it's a body which takes action, it's a mind which gives it a start, which gives it the order to start action. So mind-body connection is very, very important in this resilience. The first factor in the resilience, that first know yourself. It's not simple to just say that we will do this and that. First, know yourself. Second is, once you know yourself, you may know yourself, of course, you are aware of yourself, but what you require is remain focused and pay attention. What is attention? Attention is your ability to remain focused on a particular sensory input which is coming to your body. For example, when we are reading, we stop almost hearing. When we are listening, we almost stop seeing. That means our full attention is on the sensory input of visual or the auditory sensory organs. That means you cut off everything that is irrelevant, everything that is not required, and just remain focused on what you need to do. So very important, awareness and attention. I'll give you a simple example. Say we'll talk about a great cricketer, Bharat Ratna Sachin Tendulkar. When he's playing in the field, and we know he's a very resilient, very resilient batsman. That's why he's one of the topmost batsmen in the world, because he's resilient. And how does he manage his resilience? With these two things, awareness and attention. He's aware what is the situation right now in which his team is playing, who are watching, who is doing what. He knows exactly where the fielders are, where the umpire is, what is the bowler doing. He's aware that he's playing cricket, but his full attention at that moment is nothing else but the ball that is being thrown by the bowler to him. So the bowling action of the bowler is his full attention. And very important, why? Because his reflexes are so quick that moment the ball reaches him, he plays it. He cannot say, well, let me think about it. Let me go back to my check what is going, how the ball is, how it needs to. Let me ask my Guruji. Let me make a phone call. No, not possible. He has to respond instantaneously, and that reflex comes very quickly. Because he's aware of the mind-body connection which I talked to you about. He's aware that he has thinking pattern which needs to be very sharpened. He knows his thinking is that he has to play a particular ball in a particular way. That's his knowledge, and he's aware of his knowledge. The knowledge is there quickly available to his hand so that it takes the correct action. So this ability to remain focused, this ability to pay attention to what is happening now, what is happening in this reality, not with reference to, oh my God, what's going to happen, not with a judgmental sense, but to see exactly what is happening. And I think people have talked about this. This is what is called the mindfulness. This is what is called the awareness and mindfulness. So you are aware and also paying attention to the reality, see the reality for what it is. So very important that this mindfulness or the attention is there. Thirdly, letting go. Letting go, that means let it pass. Letting go can be at physical level as well as mental level. Now, what is meant by letting go? It's like saying that you need to keep your body in a very calm state. Like the focused mind, the body is very calm. Only then it can perform the action. So it's not only just a sharp mind, but a very mind which is body which is absolutely ready, flexible, and can turn, move, do anything. I'll give you an example of letting go the physical. A classical dancer who is dancing on the stage, she's doing everything. She's dancing, she knows what step she's taking. If she's dancing Kathak, she knows what is the rhythm, what is the song, what emotions she has to bring on her face, what is the mudra that she's going to use, when she's going to turn around, at what speed she should come back to the sum. So she's completely aware, and her body is completely under her control. She can't say, well, oh, but I forgot, I knew, but my hand didn't work that way. No, that's not possible. It will be at a perfect place. The facial expression will be perfect. Because how does she achieve this? Because she is letting go of everything that is bothering her body. जैसे तन और मन दोनों साथ में है, she just lets go everything which is there in the body, the restlessness. To begin with, she may be a little restless, she may be very self-conscious, there's so much of light, this is the kind of dress that she's wearing, her heart may be beating faster when she sees so many people sitting and watching, millions of eyes watching her, and that causes a bit of stress. But she lets go of that stress. Her muscles are perfect in the perfect sense. They are under her control because she is letting go the restlessness, uneasiness of the body. Then letting go of the mind. When we say letting go of the mind, very, very important. It's a very crucial phase in our life. Because in a resilient state, when we are working on resilience, the factor of letting go of the mind is very important. You might wonder, once you say your mind should be focused, you should be aware, you must pay attention, but letting go of what? Very, very crucial. Understand, the mind and body are there, but what works in the mind and what works in the body is the energy. जिसको हम जीवन रस कहते हैं. This is the flow of energy which is there inside us. This is the energy which we need to channelize. And the moment there is a flow of energy, there are hindrances. And hindrances in resilience or any time in life are going to be which come from our own mind. They not necessarily come from outside. They are not necessarily brought about the circumstances. Our own internal negative thinking, our own internal negative emotions. And what happens to them? I think there could be questions about this negativity which is there, part of our life. What happens? These negative emotions, this negative thing takes away the energy. And we are left with less energy to do really what we really want to do. Now, negative thoughts and negative emotions can flourish, can develop only if you fuel them. It's like fire. If you pour oil in it, if you pour fuel in it, it just grows. It just spreads like a wildfire. But if you don't supply it with fuel, if you pour water on it, it extinguishes. So when people say, and I'm working as a psychiatrist for the last so many years, many people come and say that, well, I know all this, but these negative thoughts and negative emotions, they really bother me. So I ask them casually, so what kind of negative thoughts you have? And they start. And without them realizing, they keep on talking about the negative thoughts and how negative thoughts, they're constantly developing in the mind through the process of association. They just lead, one thought leads to another, yet another, yet another, yet another. And we keep on driving these thoughts. And if thoughts are driven, the thoughts themselves are not, they themselves don't create anything. The thoughts create the fear in my mind. And this fear is a very powerful emotion. Is a very powerful destructive emotion because it consumes a lot of our energy. It consumes a lot of our time. And when you're consumed by fear, your thought process stops. You really can't say anything. you really can't do anything. And this is very common. You must have heard about the Mahabharata story, and you know about what happened to Arjun. At the right time, he says, I can't take any decision. Or you took a decision and came to the Kurukshetra to fight the war. And then you say, now I can't decide. I see these people who are there with me in my childhood, my uncles, my aunts, and my uncles and my brothers and my friends. So I'm getting confused. I'm very, very disturbed. And in that disturbed state of mind, he could not even start the battle. He said the Gandiva, that is this bow and arrow, was slipping out of his hand because his hands had become wet because of the sweat. Now that means he was holding on to this fear. And when I say that you let this fear pass, it passes because you no more give it fuel. And what is your fuel to negative thoughts and negative emotions? Your own attention. Your own attention that you pay to these thoughts, these negative thoughts that drives you crazy. Now understand, you can't say that I don't want to have negative thoughts. There is going to be fear. There is going to be anxiety. There are going to be moments when you'll say, really, I don't know what to do. I have no faith in myself. There are moments like this which are inevitable. Everyone faces it. But understand, these negative thoughts and negative emotions are like signals. They tell you that, look, something else may go wrong and you need to be prepared for it. So how do you use negative thoughts and negative emotions? Understand that they are signals and you need to prepare your plan A, plan B, plan Z. And when you have plan A to Z with you, your plan A becomes successful. So when people say, how do I become successful? How do I become resilient? I said, what plan you have? Then they give me the plan. And I ask them, suppose it fails. Then they say, oh, well, I'll be so disheartened. I won't know what to do. So exactly, very important that you must prepare the plan B, plan C, plan D, go on. And the fear, the anxiety and negative thoughts indicate. I'll give you another example. All of us who are sitting here must have done their insurances. Now, insurance companies, as you will know, are some of the richest financial institutes in the world. They simply absorb money from the community and hold it with them. And what is insurance based on? The insurance companies, their business, their work is based on people have fear of death. Everyone has this fear. Everyone is afraid of this. Everyone wonders what will happen to my family, what will happen to my children, my wife, my spouse, my parents, etc., etc. Everybody has this fear of death. And the insurance guy comes and says, well, don't worry, we'll look after it. That means the signal of fear is being used very positively by the insurance companies. So much positively that they have become the most powerful financial institutes. If there was no fear, if you had said, okay, I don't care, if I die, it doesn't matter, the insurance companies will go flat. So how to use negative thoughts, how to use negative energy in your own mind is very, very useful. They are signals. It's like saying, I won't drive on the road because there is a red signal, it will say stop. No, red signal is very important because it tells you that there is danger. You don't cross now. Don't drive. Stop. Let the other vehicles pass. Then it will be your turn. So, number one, don't be afraid of your fear. Very funny. Because you have fear of fear. Don't be afraid of your fear. Comes, passes. Negative emotions, negative thoughts. When you take a signal from them, you learn from them, they simply pass. They are like waves. They just come in the mind and they pass. And particularly in resilient state, when we really want to fight, we cause hindrance. That's why this letting go of the mind is very, very important. And to do that, we have to sustain the positivity inside. So I talked about letting go of mind, letting go of the negative. So where do we pay attention now? We pay attention to the positive thoughts in your mind. It's like if you say this is a negative thought, itself means that there is a positive thought somewhere else. You can't replace the negative thought with a positive thought. Just to let it pass and focus on the positive thought. Focus on what you really want to achieve in life. What your strengths are. We are coming to it. What our strengths are. Where are we leading? So keep on assessing and sustaining positivity. Find out what will keep you positive. What resources are required. What kind of support you require. And shamelessly, without feeling anything, ask for support. Ask for help. In my clinic, I put a poster which says, smart people ask for help. So if you say, oh my God, how can I ask for help? I'm so senior, I have experience of 40 years in psychiatry. Suppose I have a problem, where do I go? Of course, I'll reach out to another person and he'll help me. So there is no question of asking for help, because seeking help, asking for help is a very, very positive thing. We are afraid of asking help because it may seem that people will think, anyway, this guy is really cannot solve his problem. Let me exploit him. That is our fear. So if we are very clear and transparent and not afraid, then you will ask for help. So positivity has this willingness to ask for help. Positivity is also willingness to start trusting first yourself. That means in a non-resilient state, when you're feeling low, you have lost trust with yourself. You have lost compassion with yourself. See, how much I was progressing, where was I, and there, look here, now I'm lost everything, how can I come up in life? You become very abusive towards yourself. You start calling yourself names. You start labeling yourself. I am a lazy guy. No, I'm a loser. This always happens to me. And this is where I land up. This is all labeling. And this shows that you have no compassion for yourself. You have no trust for yourself. So positive thinking and positive emotion is just not thinking positively that I will do it well, achieve it. No. It's trusting that I'll be able to achieve it. It's believing that I have the ability to do it. This is the root of positive thinking, which is essential, crucial part of your resilience. And we keep on assessing it. And we keep on accessing it. We know where we stand and we keep on accessing, because it is there within us. There is wisdom within us. And when we are calm, the wisdom automatically surfaces and remain in a very, very stable state of mind. I'll quote one shlok from Bhagavad Gita, which describes this resilient state of mind. A resilient state, many times people think resilient state, the person must be restless with energy. No, the person is very calm, very focused, paying attention, because he knows what he's doing. And after Arjun says, what is it going to lead to? What this, you have told me so much, given me so much of knowledge. What state of mind I should be? And he says, Prasade sarva dukkhanam hani rasyopajayate prasanna chittaso yashu buddhihi paryavatishthate. What a beautiful way to say it. It goes back to what I said in the beginning. Yade vikurti vidyaya shraddhaya. He says, Prasade sarva dukkhan. It is a state of mind which has this power to drive away, to kill all the dukkha from your own mind. Because a positive state of mind is able to ignore negative thoughts and negative emotions. So that is the prasadika state. It's a prasanna state of mind. It's a calm, composed, collected state of mind. It's not something like a hero that we see in Bollywood or Hollywood, who is a macho, who has got two revolvers in both hands and is shooting right, left, and center, like a James Bond or a Rajinikanth or something. No, he's very calm, he's very focused. He doesn't waste his energy. And Prasanna chittaso yashu buddhi paryavatishthate. When the chitta is a pointedness of the mind, when the pointedness of the mind is in prasanna state, in this positive state, in this resilient state, buddhihi paryavatishthate. That means your thinking pattern, your thinking process remains very, very solid. It stays with you like a strong wall supporting you. So the state of mind is very important. And if you say, I want to be resilient, first check, are you in this prasanna state of mind? Are you in that calm state of mind? Very, very important. And then last but not the least, the mind-body connection about which we spoke a little earlier. But simply not mind-body connection. It's mind, body, and your spirit. Now the word spirituality, the word meditation has unnecessarily become very religious in nature. Actually, spirituality and meditation has nothing to do with any kind of religion. Because spirituality, the word spirituality itself is derived from respire. Respire means to breathe. So spirituality is becoming aware of your own breath. So, and when you are aware of your breath, you are aware of your energy. Because why you breathe? Because when you breathe in, take in oxygen, and you create energy within your own body. So the mind, body, and spiritual, with the help of meditation or with the help of mindful meditation, you all bring it together. 21st June, we celebrated Yoga Day. What yoga means? Creating a perfect synergy of mind, body, and the spirit. Mind, body, and the energy that is there within us. Now, people may call it divine energy, they may call it life energy, they may call it, Freud may call it eros, they may call it survival instinct, whatever you may call it. It's the energy that lies within us, and we need to bring it together. And mind, body, and spirit, when they are in one line, we are in a beautiful flow state, and we work effortlessly. But this cannot be simply said that I would like to have my mind, body, and spirit to be together. It cannot be simply asked for. You can't say to God, please connect these three things, sir. Please let me find the port, let me put the pin there. No, it is not so. You need to practice it. So this connection between mind, body as a functional unit, one single functional unit, is the resilience. Because then you can, because I can't say, I will not be able to tell you what your resilience is going to create for you. Everyone has got his own way of dealing with reality and coming back to life. Everyone, I'll go back to my practice. Others in IIT students will come back and start working. Professors will start teaching. The world will go on. All this will happen. Now, the last thing in order to get into this, we just have to remember 6 R's. First is remember. Remember that we are at this stage where we already learned healthy habits. Washing hands, covering face, not spitting on the road, not coughing open. So these are very good habits. Saying namaste. Remember these habits. In Resilient, after the pandemic, we have to retain these good habits. We have to rediscover our goals. Because last time we talked about goals, we were achieving it. But in last few months, we have just become mindless robots. We're just doing things mechanically. So go back to life and rediscover your goal. Remain in the now. The power of now, because if you are in the past, oh my God, what terrible thing happened to me. Oh my God, what's going to happen in future? Past and future. But the real power comes from this breath, the power of now. Remember that, remain in that now state. Then remind yourself. Reclaim your strengths, because we have forgotten what our strengths are. Our strengths are in leadership, our strengths are in compassion, our strengths are in communication, our strengths are not only solving mathematical problems or using biceps. No, mental power, mental strengths are these: compassion, love, trust, remaining focused. These are the strengths that we have. We must reclaim our strengths. Then, very, very important, we must, the captain who is sailing a ship is not only aware of what power lies in the wind to drive him ahead, but is constantly aware of what holes are there in the bottom. So he goes back, constantly checks that there is no water entering. And what is this? Our own negative thoughts. So he's aware of these. Be aware of this. Remember that these negative thoughts can attack you any minute. And if you ask me to what, how will you really achieve this? I'll just say, remember gratefulness. Remember gratitude. Because when you are grateful, you have gratitude in your heart, you always think what assets you have. When you think about your assets, you get into can do. And gratefulness is not just touching your parents' feet or praying to God. Gratefulness to nature. Gratefulness to all the people who have worked now so far so that you will survive. So that we'll be able to help your own parents, your own the maid servants who came and worked for us, all the cleaners who came and worked for us. Let us be grateful to them. And that will give us this power to come back to life. And gratefulness is also connected to hope, love, and compassion. And when you have this love, trust, compassion to begin with for self, for the community, resilience is just one step ahead. Just one movement and you become resilient. So that's what I would like to say. This resilience is very, very important in all kinds of crises. But currently in the pandemic crisis that we have, resilience is what we are going to again put us in the right place, because we are in a disillusionment phase. And the next phase is innovation. Innovation is possible only when we are resilient. We need to discover new things in life, how to run life in a better way. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, sir. I almost forgot to do my job as a moderator.
Okay.
So
Okay.
much engrossed in listening to you.
Thank you.
So, sir, there are so many questions now. I'll take one by one. Yeah. So first question
I have
is
a lot of
how
answers.
to
I have a lot of answers.
that I know, sir. Sir, how to break old habits, because this
Okay.
is very important to know. So as we now learn to love the new style of working
Yes.
and new style of life. Otherwise, it will become a burden to us.
Yeah. So this is very interesting because the word habit is very interesting. It's like HABIT, right? If you remove H, a bit remains. If you remove a bit remains. And if you remove AB, it remains. So we really have to work very hard. And mindfulness, awareness is very important. See, habit is what? Habit is actually a hardwired reflex in the brain. And it works on stimulus, action, and reward. Because habits continue because they are always giving us some kind of, even bad habits have very good rewards. It's like escape from anxiety, fear is the biggest reward that we get. That's why people keep on drinking alcohol, keep on smoking. They know, but it is so rewarding to just run away. So awareness is very important, and curtailing the rewards is very important. Deciding, understanding, I talked about that awareness, deciding and taking action, awareness and action. Okay, let me be very frank. Let me be very frank with all of you. At one stage, I was a smoker. Many people don't believe it. I used to smoke 10, 20 cigarettes a day.
Oh.
Then a day came, so about 35, 40 years back, a day came and said, I want to stop. Why am I smoking? Because I just want to smoke because it looks very stylish there. You know how the heroes used to smoke? Oh, otherwise if I'm not seen smoking, the girl will not look at me. That was the fear. And I said, oh my God, this fear is driving me crazy. It's killing my lungs. So I became aware and I started paying attention to all the stimuli which tell me go and smoke. Even now, I'm aware if I step out, there's a panwala there, I just go and buy cigarette. No, I don't. 24 hours I'm aware. 24 hours I'm paying attention. When you really want to get rid of your habits, remember the soldier in the front.
Right.
The bullet can come from anywhere. There is no lubricant. There is no break. Okay, I'm just dozing off. Don't shoot now. 24/7.
Right.
So when we are 24/7 aware and paying attention, old habits can be broken.
Right, sir. Right. Now, sir, you talked about resilience. So, how can resilience and hope together can help shape a new normal in our life?
Okay. The new normal has to be defined as new way of living. In this new way of living, these habits which we have acquired now will remain with us. What happens is, in the resilient state or in the new normal state, we may say, I would like to forget it, but it still remains. These are all, doctor, these are all emotional residues within us. All the memories, maybe we have lost someone, maybe someone whom you knew. I lost a couple of my friends, and that memory stays with me. And these are emotional residues within me, which kind of frighten me. And they say, oh my God, what's going to happen? So these emotional residues stick around. And they stick around and they bring back all the old memories of losses. And when you stick around with these old memories, you just open an account of your unhappiness and you keep on counting how much you have deposited there. So hope is possible only when you learn that these residues are created by us. Because we hold on to it, they stay with us. There is a Velcro effect. It sticks. You put a Teflon, it becomes good.
Good. Okay, sir. So now I would like to welcome Deepa, who's a program head of Vidya Bhavishya. She would like to ask you a question.
Welcome.
Sir,
yes.
Really an awesome session. Sir, I would like to ask, I would like to know what kind of long-lasting psychological effects of the current situation would be seen in our students, and how we as a teachers could help them. But before that, how we could help ourselves in self-healing process.
Very good. See, you use words which are very beautiful. We are treating a disorder or a disease, but what heals the mind is your energy, is your conviction, is hope, love, compassion. The biggest healing process is trust on your own people, trust yourself, trust on maybe trust your own God or whatever, trust anything which is positive in life. So that leads to healing. So very important that this healing must occur. And when we pray, start the prayer with thank you. And when we say thank you, we are healing ourselves. Secondly, the impact of pandemic really lasts long. All the earlier research which has been done on pandemics and the effects of pandemics, it may last 4 or 5 years also. That means it may be a trauma. My father, who lived up to 100 years, or talked often about the plague time because he lived in plague. He said, oh, plague we have seen and how horrible it is. Even at 90 years, he used to say it was so horrible. That means we still retain the memories because so much of loss is associated with it. But when we say that jo hona tha ho gaya, it's all past, disconnect with the past and live in the present. And you know what? Rather than teaching children, we can learn so much from children. Children are here and now. They're playing, they're completely engrossed in their play activities. Only when they have this fear, only because of their loss, what they require is not a sermon, but a pat on the back. You know, taking them close to you, give them emotional support, tell them, look, that is old story. Now let's come back to normal. Let's see how you're doing now. I teach my patients because my patients are like my children. They come and sit with me. They're in great grief or they're in distress. So first thing that we do is that we sit opposite each other and I tell them, you may be very restless, doesn't matter. Let's breathe together. So we sit and we do belly breathing together. Breathe in and breathe out. 5 minutes, I just breathe with them, not teach them, with them. And when you start breathing with them, you kind of transmit your positive wavelengths to the children. So a session of breathing with children becomes very important. And the teachers also must learn how to do this. So I think what we can do is we can plan some online learning session also, ongoing session about resilience. Because there are many things which I want to tell you because I've told you the theory. I have to tell you how to do it in practice. how to be grateful. You have to learn how to be positive. You have to be, there are skills with which you do it. There are exercises with which you do it. It's not simply go and learn your alphabets. No, you have to sing songs for alphabet. Then only they remember. So there are many things with which you can do it. And I'm planning a e-learning course based on that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deepa, for that question. Yeah. So now, with children, like, what kind of positive behavioral changes we should expect to see in children in post-COVID era?
Okay. Children are going to be naughty also. So children will come and say, well, I forgot my mask today, ma'am. I didn't bring it. My mask has been stolen by my friend.
Yeah.
He doesn't allow me to wear a mask. All this naughtiness is going to come back to the children.
Right.
And we must be able to laugh at them, laugh with them. So I think their ability to forget the past is very easy. And they have a very nice, mischievous sense of humor, and we must be with them. We don't have to scold them for all that they're doing, because that is for them, that is the way they live life. They live this life with a very great energy. That energy is there in their children. That energy must be respected. What happens is, children with a lot of energy say, okay, sit down, don't talk, keep quiet, shut up, don't ask questions. I was like that. I know.
Right.
I'm still a child. So, you know, that energy is very, very important. And when that energy is allowed to grow, flourish, you can really do things.
Right. You are a child, sir. We can say that for sure. Like, so now there is one more question from Pallavi.
Yeah.
She is a program coordinator for the Spoken English Partnership Program at Vidya.
Okay.
Namaskar, sir. Wonderful
Namaskar.
session.
Thank you.
I think it is important for all of us to learn to adopt to the new normal. Only one thing, sir. Basically, in this pandemic, I was thinking about the adolescents. They are stuck between being adults and being children. So how can we teach them, or how can we cultivate resilience and positive thinking for them? Because not just for the pandemic time, but even otherwise, because adult expectations hai unse, but they are not really adults.
A very, very important, very crucial age is adolescence. Essentially, because you are no more a child, but you are not an adult. You behave like a child, but you like to be treated as adult. They will ask people to respect them, but they will not act respectfully. So that's the age when really people are growing, and there the most important thing is they are searching for themselves. It's a search for identity, and these days there is search of identity in many different ways. Mainly the vocation gives them that sense of identity. What I want to be. No, I want to become a teacher, I want to become an engineer, I want to get into IIT, I want to become a doctor, etc., etc. That gives them that sense of purpose. So what happens many times, children say, adolescents particularly say, today they'll say, I want to be a pilot, next day they'll say, I want to be an engineer, third day they'll say, I want to be a doctor. The parents feel very angry. Why are you changing it? You must be focused. Actually, they're seeing all this because they have so many dreams.
Right.
And we almost always respect their dreams. And when you start respecting their dreams, they talk about their dreams. And this dream is not just vocation, not just profession, what they would like to grow as what kind of human being they want to grow as an affectionate person, as a successful person, as a community person. So adolescents have huge dreams. And these dreams are now connected to reality slowly, not like child. It's not just an imagination. It's a vision they create for themselves. So one exercise I always ask young kids to do, adolescents to do, is to write a vision for themselves. Where do they see for themselves 5 years down the line? Where do they see what would they like to contribute to their own self? What they would like to contribute to the family? What they would like to contribute to the community. Depending on his nature, depending on the personality, you can ask these questions. What is the contribution they can make? And they start talking about contribution and they forget, actually we are asking them contribution. Actually, we are asking them what strengths you have.
Right.
Right.
So when they start contributing, they say, oh, I want to do this. Oh, that means you have compassion in your heart. So all the contributions they start talking about, actually they start talking about their strengths. And when people become aware of the strengths, they feel very positive. And adolescents all the time here is, you are not this, you are not that, you can't do this, you can't even stand properly, or see where your legs are and your hands are, you're so clumsy. So this is part of growing, and growing is strength. So constantly reminding them of their dreams, their vision, and their contribution. Just a small game with them, because they talk of contribution, you listen to their strengths. And they've talked, you ask them, how will you be able to contribute this? And they'll say, oh, I have this, I have that, I have done this, I have done that. Okay, that means now you're talking about your strength. Then completely the direction can be gone. So how can you remain aware of your strength? What can I do so that your strength will grow? What will you do to grow your strength? So it's a very interesting dialogue that you need to have with these children, and they like to be treated like adults. So have a dialogue like an adult. You know, sit here and let me talk to you. Don't scold them. So and you can just, आपकी नजर से पता चलेगा कि आप बच्चा जाति कर रहा है, तो समझ जाते हैं.
Thank you so much, sir, because I think one very important point that you made is talk with them and not talk to them.
Yes.
I think that's
Right.
wonderfully said, sir. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Right. Thank you, Pallavi. Sir, I would like to, there are so many questions, but I would
Okay.
like to end with one very important note. Like, you talked about strength, you talked about gratefulness and all. So how do we discover our strength so that we
Okay.
develop this skill of resilience?
Very good. Okay, you are actually asking me to do an exercise. Okay.
Yeah.
The exercise, everyone can do it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no trade secret. You know,
Yeah.
it's an essay. It's an essay which is about, say, 100, 200 words.
Mhm.
You just have to sit down at one place, spend about half an hour, just thinking, introspecting, which is the most successful moment in your life, where you felt very happy, where you felt very good about yourself. That I felt satisfied, I felt good about myself, I felt very happy about myself. So ask them, everyone starts thinking in those terms, finding out what positive residue in the mind. And when they write it down, ask them to describe the incidents word to word. That essay is about their self-experience. And when they write their self-experience, like I did just now, that vision experience, you ask them how you could achieve this. What is it there within you that made you achieve all this moment of happiness? What strength was used? And that strength will automatically evolve. But this has to be done because, oh, what strength I have. Some of them say, I don't have any strength. My mother says, you're dumb. My teacher says, put it away.
Yeah.
Spend half an hour. Just think about this. And very important, not on mobile, not on computer.
Yes,
Paper
sir.
and pen, paper and pen.
Yes.
Write it down.
Paper and-
And sit with them, and you will identify the strengths. So that gives you that tells them that their strength really lies in these achievements and from their own experience.
Right, sir. Thank you for pointing this out on pen and paper. So
Yes.
we are not bad parents. We are continuously doing all these exercises. You are
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this wonderful. I mean, everyone. I am sure that everyone must have enjoyed it. Talking.
I enjoyed it myself.
Me too, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, it was absolutely wonderful, fantastic, fantabulous session. As you started with the quoting Bhagavad Gita, let me end this wonderful session with quoting Bhagavad Gita with a little bit of changes from my end. Tells to Krishna that Smruti Labdaha, Nashto Moha Smruti Labdaha. So let me say that the ignorance, Nashto Ignoranceha, Nuve Labdaha. After your session, sir. It was great. Theory and understandings which we have got today in words into practice. And we will again come back to you for more practical sessions with you, for our teachers, our leaders, our students, everybody at Vidya, sir. Thank you for your time. On behalf of our founder, President, Honorable Rashmi Mishra ji, I would like to thank, first of all, our moderator, Dr. Sheetal Kale, for today's session. Thank you all the viewers for joining, of course. And may I request all the viewers to kindly support our online donation campaign, which running currently, to answer the urgent need which has been created in our communities due to COVID-19 crisis. As you have shared your time with us, we hope you will share a little bit of a financial support also with us. May I request all the viewers to express their gratitude by showing thumbs up or nice smiley emojis or words in the chat box, so that our guest speaker and the moderator can know how much you all have enjoyed today's session. So you can see so many messages are coming with the emojis and the words, sir. It was indeed a pleasure to host you with us, sir. And with this, thank you for your sharing time with us. And thank you, viewers, for joining. We look forward to welcoming you again at our next session. Till then, this is Ankit signing off with Namaste.
Thank you, Ankit. Thank you, Vidya.